The Motor Dream podcast is recorded on Wallamedigal land of the Eora Nation. It always was and always will be the lands of the First Nations of Australia.
This is the Motor Dream podcast.
Hello and welcome to the 19th episode of the Motor Dream podcast, and it's great to have your company once again. I'm Connor McNally, and this is the podcast where we can dream just a little about what our dream garage would be if money was no issue whatsoever. Well, I have to say, I was blown away by how popular the last episode was, which featured Moog from Mighty Car Mods and Top Gear Australia. Getting him on the show happened so quickly, I barely had time to prepare, so I had to be quick in my research. Thankfully, like a true professional, the chat itself was so good, it had to go out into the public on the same day the first lot of episodes for Top Gear Australia dropped. So once again, a massive thank you to Hayley O'Donnell and Kate Doak from Network 10 for being so accommodating to have a little podcast like mine interviewing Moog himself. And remember, Paramount Plus is the only place where you can watch all episodes of Top Gear Australia. Oh, and make sure you listen to my chat with Moog in the Motor Dream podcast library, which you can find wherever you listen to your podcasts, as well as all previous episodes so far in this series. So if you're a regular listener to the podcast, you know what I'm about to say. For all the new listeners, here's how it goes. I tell my guests that one day that they wake up and they check their phones and they discover that they receive a text to say that they need to check their bank balance. They then open up their bank app and suddenly discover that their balance has gone to infinity. They are instant billionaires. As soon as they discover their newfound fortune, they get an email from this mystery benefactor that tells them that they can spend anything they like and they can buy any car, bike or machine that they want. But there is a catch. They are only allowed 3 cars, bikes or machines in their dream garage. It sounds easy, but it is very difficult, as my previous guests have discovered. You get to hear from drivers and riders from within the motorsport game, as well as those who work in the motoring industry, and on the odd occasion you'll hear from some prominent personalities who all share the same passion of cars as well as motoring. Now, in the world of the performing and the dramatic arts, there is a well-known subculture where actors and actresses are just as famous for being car enthusiasts as much as they are famous for their work. In Hollywood, this is no exception. Famous names like Jay Leno, Tom Cruise, John Cena, Tim Allen, Rowan Atkinson, and even Lady Gaga are just as well known for their car collections as they are on screen. But what about those who are trying to get their big break in such a fiercely competitive environment? Of the 160,000 actors registered with the Screen Actors Guild in the United States, and possibly thousands more, many take regular jobs to make ends meet while searching for that big break. Some sadly don't even get that opportunity. But what if you found a different way to make your presence known, like being a brand ambassador for a car brand? Well, that's what Australian actress India Patten did, as she became a brand ambassador for BMW whilst pursuing her Hollywood aspirations. Growing up in Leeton, New South Wales, and with a background in ballet, Patten packed her bags in 2007 and headed across to the United States and to Hollywood to find her big break. And fortunately for her, she managed to land in some small but significant roles in programs such as Cinderella 3 for Disney, Grey's Anatomy, Interstellar, and CSI New York. She even landed a role playing the turtle in the iconic Australian cartoon short Beach Daz for the ABC. But it was a chance opportunity through a friend of hers to meet with an executive from BMW that opened up doors for Patten to further explore her love of cars and motoring. Growing up with a family that was involved in transport exposed her to all things motoring at a very early age. And her time as a brand ambassador not only gave her the flexibility to still pursue acting roles, but it gave her the opportunity to drive some really diverse machinery within the BMW stable, like Rolls-Royce, Mini, and BMW itself. Patten returned to Australia in 2020 when the world shut down due to COVID, and her involvement with BMW came to a mutual end. She is still active with her acting career and is now pursuing a new career in speech pathology, utilising all her acting and ambassador experience in this next phase of her life. She hasn't forgotten about her love for cars, which she remains passionate about and will always answer the call to represent BMW if and when required. I've been fortunate enough to have known India since 2008, when we met by chance at a short film premiere in Paddington. Back then, I didn't know she was into cars as much as I was. But with the benefit of time, we've been able to chat about our mutual interests. And when I approached her last year if she'd be interested to come on as a guest, she expressed great joy in doing so. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy my chat with India Patten. India Patten, welcome to the Motor Dream podcast. It's so great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me, Connor. Really excited to be chatting with you.
It's really good to have you. I first met you 15 years ago, and we met at a short film. I was studying to do film and television at TAFE, and I was trying to get into the industry proper. You were trying to break your way into the acting scene. So you were an aspiring actress. We met at a short film, and then you, not long after that, went off to the United States, went to LA, went to Hollywood. And you made a bit of a mark while you were over there. But whilst you were over there, you discovered a love of cars. It's a very crazy time for you, isn't it?
Yeah. I loved it. My time over in the US, I was over there for 12 years. And I was pursuing acting, which I'm still doing today. And also, I had the opportunity to go and meet with somebody from BMW. And I ended up becoming an ambassador for them. So I had such a great time.
What happened when you were in LA? Because you're obviously trying to make a career, and obviously you can't live off acting income alone. You've got to have a job. So how did that link with BMW first begin?
Yeah, so basically a friend was going for an interview and she was like, "You like cars, why don't you come along with me?" And I thought, oh, okay, I'll go along. And I just really hit it off with the person that I was chatting with. And both of us actually ended up getting jobs with them as an ambassador. And it was just great because it was so flexible. It allowed us to really travel and see a lot of the US. And also I went to Canada as well. And then also with auditions and acting, I was able to do that as well. So it was really flexible for my basically the career that I wanted to choose, which was acting.
Did it surprise you how much you really got into cars when you were doing that ambassador role?
Yeah, it was surprising that, the training is really quite intense and I really enjoyed it. And it was something that I found that I really gravitated towards. So the training would be like 4 days. You'd be in Woodcliff Lake at New Jersey. And, we had such a great opportunity to learn the inside and outside of the vehicles and the design and, what was coming next. They also gave us cars to take out on the roads. And, we really got to like test the vehicles and really understand what we were talking about, which was great.
Did you get to do any like driver training whilst you were over there?
Yeah, so we actually at Citi Field in New York City, we actually were able to take some cars. I was in an M3 and we got to take that around cones, and really we had a professional driver with us. But we really got to test the vehicles and really get to feel how like the vehicle like will self-correct and it was so fun. You got to push them to the limits for sure.
That would have been really cool. Did it surprise you that you had this interest in cars before you went over to, you rediscovered your love of cars? Because from what you said to me prior to us recording is that you did have a bit of love of cars, but it wasn't really discovered until you went to America.
Yeah, that's right. So basically, I was always interested in the design of vehicles. So I always sort of recognized when a new, like a brand would bring out a newly designed, like the lights, along the sides of vehicles even. Like it was always sort of an interest of mine, just seeing them on the roads. When you're driving in the city every day, you kind of notice those things, or people don't. And it just seemed to be something that I gravitated towards was. Firstly, the design of vehicles.
Why the design of vehicles instead of the mechanical side? What attracted you more to that kind of area?
I think because like when you're on the road all the time, you're just noticing these things, like you're just noticing like a new vehicle that's on the road and you're like, oh, what have they changed about that? And so I think, the mechanical side of it came later when I was studying with BMW and studying specifically those vehicles. And then that interest developed as well into the mechanical side of it. So like engine types and also like the weight to power ratio as well. Like that that was always really interesting to me.
Of the BMW range, what attracted you the most? What particular model of BMW you went, oh, I would love to take that home and just keep it for all of eternity? Because there's quite a few BMWs that, you just go, oh, just to die for.
Yeah, sure. I've always really liked the M3 and the M4. So I was working with them when they launched the M4 back in 2014, and then the new redesigned M3. So I've always really enjoyed those two vehicles. I've always had a particular interest in the M6 Grand Coupe. Always loved that. The design of it again. And just I think it's such a beautiful vehicle. And then the engine as well is just, immaculate.
Can I say, you won me over immediately with the M3 because I'm old school. I go back to, I love the E30, the box shape from the late 80s. So that's my favourite M3. I mean, I love all M3s, but the E30, just with the, the bulging arches on the sides, and then you got the aero kit on the spoiler on the front, the rear wing on the back. Yes. Oh, it's just beautiful. I mean, it's not a powerful car. It was powerful for its time, but I just absolutely love that car. I don't think I could own any other M3 other than that one.
Yeah, it is beautiful. And,
have you actually driven one, an M3?
I haven't. No, I haven't driven that, but I've driven like the current ones. So that was the other thing, like with BMW, I was always working with the most current vehicles, because, like some of them were unreleased even. Like I got to drive the M2 before it was released. That was in Chicago. I mean, I loved that car as soon as I drove it. I was like, that's a beautiful vehicle.
It is a beautiful vehicle. Yeah. What about other cars? Have you had the opportunity to try and drive other cars whilst you were in America, or was it all pretty much a BMW exclusivity that you had?
Mainly with BMW, because that's who I was working with very closely as an ambassador. So mainly the BMWs. I have driven other vehicles too, like Audi, Mercedes. There's been a bunch that I've driven, especially too, like driving friends' cars and that sort
as
of
you do.
But I've always always just been around the BMW group, I guess. Yeah.
And you still maintain that relationship even now. Now that you've returned home from America, you still have a link with BMW as an ambassador here in this country.
A little bit, yeah. I'm basically just going to some events and that sort of thing, and just really enjoying sort of being tied into BMW Australia as well. It's really nice. I went to a North Shore BMW event last week, and it was so great to see the new vehicles, because I have stepped away from BMW work. I was with them for 5 years, and then acting took over, and then also a new career choice. So it was nice to step back into the world of BMW after being away for a while and seeing what's new, and a lot of the e-vehicles really coming to the forefront as well, which is nice to see.
It is nice. What about e-vehicles, like electric vehicles? Are you gravitating towards them a little bit, or do you still have a penchant for like those with internal combustion?
So, it's really tricky. I've owned both. I had a naturally aspirated 2013 1 Series, which I loved. And then I've also had like the 330e. So that's the hybrid. And, I loved both of them. I mean, they drive differently, definitely. But I think the e-vehicles, with the way the world is going, I think it's something that we really need to sort of push as well. But to be able to have our, I guess like the e-vehicles not taking over completely, because we still do need our, naturally aspirated or combustion engines. We still need those as well.
I want to touch on your acting in a sec, but I found a very nice little story that we chatted about just before we recorded. Your family, your grandparents in particular, had a link to motoring. They've run a truck business for many years, and you don't necessarily associate yourself with trucks, but I guess that kind of love of cars started from your grandparents running a truck business.
Yeah. I think there's like quite a link there between, the automotive industry as a whole. And yeah, while, trucks are very different to the vehicles that we're driving, our day to day. Yeah, that's probably where it stemmed from a little bit. And also just my love of driving as well. I've done a few track days, which I've absolutely loved.
Nice.
And, and, like just, yeah, regular drives. I mean, I'm from the country. So, living in the city, it's a good 6-hour drive. So I've spent a lot of time in cars.
I've got to ask, your track days that you've said, which tracks have you driven in the US? Have you done Watkins Glen? Have you done some of the other tracks around the US?
Yeah, so I actually I did I had the opportunity to do an M track day with BMW,
Yeah.
and basically it was in Spartanburg where BMW has a plant. And yeah, you go there and we drove M3s, M4s and M5s, and we had all different types of tracks, wet conditions, circle work, we played cat and mouse on one of them. And yeah, it was so fun. It was such a great time. And also you also picked up skills, like so defensive driving skills, which I thought was really important as well. So it was quite an educational day as well as learning how these vehicles handle in the different conditions.
Do you find it staggering that we don't have this kind of education for the common day person? Like, obviously it's available, to those that own BMWs, and there's very similar programs for Audi and for Mercedes AMG. But the fact that there's nothing commercially available as part of your driving testing, are you surprised that we don't have that on tap? Like in Scandinavia, they have it as compulsory, driver training. So does that shock you a little bit that we don't have this kind of education?
I mean, I think it would be useful, definitely. I think for somebody to, especially for those that are a little hesitant when driving, and they don't build up that confidence of driving. And that's the thing, like, I think when you do learn those skills, you're more in control of the vehicle. You know how the vehicle's going to react. What to do and not to do, basically, behind the wheel. And I know even in Australia, BMW hasn't, and I think there's a bunch of them, like Porsche does it as well. And they do have these track days where you can go and learn these skills, which I think are important.
Away from your car side of your career, you've been quite prominent in the acting world for a while. You're obviously not known as a major acting personality, but you've actually established yourself with quite a bit of a CV. You've done Grey's Anatomy, you've done Cinderella as part of the Disney franchise, Cinderella 3, and you've also done Beach Daz, the fantastic little cartoon that was on the ABC back in the early 2010s, which I absolutely loved. That's a really cool little film. What was your role in that particular series of Beach Daz?
Yeah, so I played the turtle, and yeah, that was so fun. It was a quick shoot. They were they were a really good group of guys to work with. Yeah, it was just really fun, and I think they're still really funny. The clips, I think, yeah, they've dated well. They've lived on well.
They have lived on exceptionally well, and I think they've done a few more since then. They've gone on. I think they've done one or two series away from the ABC now, but it's still very funny when you look back and you just go, "Oh no, oh no!" With apologies to the New Zealand listeners. It's just so funny. It's so funny. Grey's Anatomy. Now, what was your role on Grey's Anatomy back in the day?
Okay, so it was a small role. Basically a co-star, and I was working with one other guy who he played my husband, and we were in basically like a storm setting, and we just had a baby, so the babies were in incubators, and yeah, it was a very dramatic scene, and yeah, it was just a very short scene, but yeah, it was great to shoot. It was a lot of fun.
It's obviously a very intense environment. You have to do your part. You don't necessarily interact with some of the major stars, so you have to. Do you have to find yourself sometimes? You have to control your enthusiasm a little bit for the major stars that were on the show, or do you just treat it like as a normal job?
Yeah, you definitely treat it as a normal job. I think I worked with oh my gosh, I've forgotten his name, Dempsey.
Oh, Patrick Dempsey, who is yeah. Well, he's a racing driver as well, so very very
Yeah,
prominent race
yeah.
driver in his own right.
That's right. Yeah. So he was there as well. I worked with him, and a couple of the other leading stars of the show. And yeah, you do. You just treat it as a normal job. I mean, everyone's there. It's very fast paced. So you are there. You get in. You do your job, and yeah, it's they're relying on timing of filming, and so yeah, you've got to get in there, and everybody's very pleasant. I was very lucky in that sense. Yeah, I was able to chat with them, and spend some of the downtime chatting with a couple of the leading stars of that show. But yeah, it was a great experience. Very, very nice cast to work with.
Since then, you've come home. You've now based yourself back in Sydney, and you're still involved doing acting, and you still do some stuff, as we mentioned before, with BMW. Not on the same level as you once were, but you're now doing speech pathology as part of your study. So you've moved from one area of expertise to another, and I find it very interesting that you're utilising what you've learned from your acting and from your ambassador role with BMW into what you're studying now for speech pathology. Tell us a little bit more about that.
It all sort of ties in a lot together. So a lot of it is very communication based. So even my role as an ambassador, I was communicating with, a lot of different sort of people throughout the US and Canada, and talking about BMW and BMW as a whole, as a company, and all the different vehicles that we had to know them inside out. So I really enjoyed that, the delivery of information and that communication, because there is so much passion behind people with brands and their passion of different vehicles for different reasons. And so that also, I also do voiceover work as well. So I still have my agents in the US who I work closely with. So I still do voiceover for there, and also for the Australian market as well. And then from that, and also acting always has sort of just been something that I've done. That level of communication, I sort of delved into it a little deeper and looked at communication for those that have difficulty with communication, whether it's structural or neurological in that sense. And so it led me into speech pathology. And yeah, I've absolutely been loving it. I'm in third year at the moment, and at university. And yeah, I'm absolutely loving the course and everything that we're learning about speech pathology. And I actually had no idea before I started the course how many different avenues you can specialize in. So I haven't really sort of decided on one area yet, but I think I'm getting closer to it, what I want to specialize in. But yeah, it's different, but also I can see how it's tied into the past of like other things that I've done.
It's really cool. I think it's great that you've basically diversified from what you've learned in the past and doing what you're doing now. But you haven't given up on acting and doing, some car work, which is a good thing.
No.
Do you actually have aspirations to, you obviously done some track days, but do you actually have some aspirations to maybe get your racing license and do some track days here and there?
I would love it. Actually, the race day that I did at Spartanburg in South Carolina, I came second that day behind one other guy. So I really loved it, and it was really my first taste of track driving and that sort of thing. So look, I'm definitely open to it. I had a lot of fun. So I think, yeah, I could definitely pursue something in that area as well.
Well, given that I know a few people who have had professional careers in other disciplines, even in other sports, and have now made a second career doing race driving, it's not impossible. So
right.
you've got every chance of doing it. So it's really cool.
This is the Motor Dream Podcast.
Let's delve a little bit deeper. I want to know how much of a car enthusiast you really are. So I'm going to ask you a few questions just to get an idea of how much of a car enthusiast you are.
Sure.
Who taught you firstly how to drive?
Okay, so that would be my dad. He helped me a lot. I actually borrowed my uncle's ute to learn how to drive because it was a column stick shift, a
Oh,
column shift. Yeah.
what car was it, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh my gosh. Now you're testing me. It would have been like, I think it was a Ford Falcon Ute or something. It was like, definitely from like the early 90s, if not late 80s. And I wanted to get my manual license because even when I got my license, if you went in an automatic, you could only drive automatics. Well,
That's
I
right.
definitely needed to get the manual. So yeah, I did my license in that Ute. But before that, even I actually learned on a horse training track at a friend's place.
Okay, tell us a little bit more about that. That's really interesting. So you learnt on a trotting track, or did you learn like on a?
Yeah,
Oh, tell
yeah.
us, tell us.
So basically, in the country we can drive, on properties and that sort of thing. And a friend of ours was like, "Oh, why don't you just come? You can come onto the track, learn on the track, and that sort of thing." There were no horses on the track at the time, of course, but yeah, they gave me one of their little cars. It was a little Morris Minor, and it
Oh,
had no
nice.
windshield.
No windshield.
No windshield, so you had to wear your sunnies, otherwise bugs would be flying in your face. But yeah, like I learned on this track, and again, it was a little manual vehicle, and yeah, it was so fun. It was quite an older car, and yeah, it was really cool. Yeah,
That is so interesting. A little mini, well, not mini minor, Morris minor.
Morris Minor.
Wow,
Yeah,
that brings back so many memories to a lot of people. The shape of the car is so unique back in the day, but with no
yeah,
windscreen. Oh boy! Did you
yeah.
have to dart
Pretty wild.
any? Did you have to dart any sticks or stones that were coming through the front windscreen?
No, mainly just bugs. Like probably like locusts and that sort of thing, maybe.
Where in the country did you grow up, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, that's all right. So I grew up in Leeton, so it's
Oh,
like
Leeton, yes.
yeah, it's a good 6-hour drive from Sydney. So
It's a far way from Los Angeles, that's for sure.
it is, yeah, yeah. But I still come home to visit, so it's always nice.
As you do. It's really cool. What about the first car you actually owned and drove?
So it was a manual, and it was a 1990 Toyota Camry.
Okay, that's not so
Blue.
bad. They're
Yeah,
nice
it was
little
good.
mid-sized car. I actually
Yeah,
love the Camrys back in the day. They were actually a nice car. I thought they were rather sporty back in
yeah.
the day.
Yeah, it was fun to drive. I loved it. Yeah, had it at uni and whip around the uni court. And yeah, no, it was good. It was a good little car. Yeah.
That's really cool. What about the first road trip do you remember going on? Was it in the Camry?
Oh, you know what? I had a Holden Barina after the Camry. I had the Camry for a few years, and then I got a Holden Barina. I don't remember what year it was. But yeah, I did go on a road trip with friends in that, and it was so fun. Yeah. You
Uh,
just like that sense of freedom and being able to get out there into the
nice.
world, and yeah.
Was it a manual or was it an auto?
That one was an auto. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
Oh no.
yeah. I can tell you're a manual girl already. Do you feel, actually, I will ask this question. Do you feel we're kind of losing a lost art now? Like we're losing our talent in driving a manual car because everyone seems to be driving autos these days.
Yeah, absolutely. I came across this while I was working in the US, and there was one point where I was working with a group, and they didn't know how to move one of the M5s because it was a manual. So I said, well, I can drive manual if you want me to drive it. And so, yeah, I basically had to move this vehicle out of a showroom. Yeah.
That is crazy. Are we becoming lazy all of a sudden that we're just driving automatics and we're just sitting there doing nothing? Learn how to drive a manual. It gets you out of trouble all the time, I think.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess like in city driving, maybe the auto is easier.
Of
It is,
course.
that kind of thing might tip people over to go to the auto side. But yeah, manual, I don't know. Yeah, there's something great about, gear shifting and I don't know, feeling the vehicle a bit more and having a bit more control of the vehicle. Something to be said for that. Yeah.
I agree with that. You're not going to get any arguments out of me. I'm a manual person all the way. Do you remember the first time you had to change a tyre?
So I'm ashamed to admit this, but yeah, I've never actually had to change a tyre.
What is wrong with you?
Well, there would have been one time when I was driving on the 101 freeway in the US, like 6 lanes of traffic going at, I don't know, 70. You're meant to be going 70
miles an hour, which is about 100,
probably at
110,
80.
yeah, 100,
Yeah.
110, 120 Ks, yeah.
Yeah. I was in the 330E at the time, and my dashboard lit up and the bells started ringing, and I'd got a nail in my tire.
Ooh.
So I would have had to have changed a tire then, but I had run flats. So I was able to get off at the next exit and go into the service station, and basically I could hear it hissing. And I called BMW and they said, you'll be fine, just drive it to your nearest dealership, which I did. But I thought after that experience, I actually was thinking more about run flats because they're quite divisive, really. Like you've got people that really like them, and then other people are like, nope, they're too expensive, they're not worth the money. But in that situation, it actually really kept me safe. I was in the fast lane on the 101, and I had to get over 6 lanes of traffic to get off at the next exit. And, I was thinking now, if that was at night, that would have been really dangerous. And I found that with the run flat tire, I was able to take it straight to the dealership. They changed it out straight away, and I was back on the road that afternoon. So to me, I think there's great value in the run flats, even though they are more expensive than our regular non-run flat. But yeah, after that experience, I was sort of like, I can see the value in them for sure.
You're going to be dividing quite a few people that are listening to this. No, you've got to learn how to change a flat tyre.
Yeah, I agree. I do need to learn. I do.
All right. What about pet peeves with car flats? Do you have any? Do you like stickers on it? Do you hate having stickers on the car? Or do you have like the air fresheners that are hanging from the rear vision mirror? Do you have those, or do you hate having them?
I don't have those. No. Look. I don't mind. Like sometimes like the stickers, I don't mind. You know what I don't like actually? I don't like a whole heap of stickers on cars. And I don't like if you're driving a particular brand, I don't like that brand of sticker also plastered across the car. But
well, you're just about to upset one of our previous guests who had to have a sticker on her car. So, Jade.
Oh no!
Yeah, well, but then again, it was for an election campaign. As soon as she got elected,
okay.
she ripped it off. I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about.
No, that's fine.
Yeah. So, Jade, if you're listening, don't worry. You're safe. You're safe.
Yeah.
But I totally get it. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, like some people have like the whole back window, chockers with stickers, or like they're all like plastered with stickers. Yeah, that kind of thing. No. I don't mind some branding and that sort of thing, but yeah. No. I like that cleaner look, maybe.
I kind of agree there. You just leave it alone. Just nice and clean.
Yeah.
What about the worst car you ever owned?
Worst car I've ever owned. Let's see. I don't know. I've enjoyed all my cars for different reasons. Like the Toyota Camry, that was an amazing first car. Like that was such a great car. And the Holden Barina, I think, that was also a fabulous car. Like it was a 4-door, it's, great on fuel, that sort of thing. I don't really have a car that I haven't enjoyed. And then in the US, I was lucky to drive a lot of, and basically have a lot of BMWs over the years that I had. But there's not really one where I'd be like, I had a Mercedes too at one point, which I quite enjoyed. It was a little Mercedes, but yeah, I don't have one that I haven't liked. I guess
that's a good answer. Actually, I will ask you this: what's your favorite BMW?
Oh, Okay, so if I could choose one, well, that launches into my dream garage.
Okay, well, don't spoil it. Don't spoil it. We'll come back.
Okay.
We'll come back to that. We won't spoil it just yet. All right, one more question. What's something you wish more people knew about cars? What's the one thing you wish people knew more, like in terms of the enjoyment of driving?
So I have friends, and they've said to me before, they've said, I don't understand your passion for cars. They're like, I get in, I drive to the shops, I drive, on a holiday. They don't really, care that much for what they're driving. I think, if people were able to do a track day and like really understand what a car can do on a track, and also again that defensive driving skill that comes into it. I wonder if more people would have an appreciation for driving and the car that they are driving. And also, again, the design of vehicles. Like, I've always loved the different designs of vehicles and how they continue to evolve over time. I think if people had an appreciation for that as well, I think they might enjoy what they drive a little more, maybe.
I think it's a pretty good answer. It surprises me how many people they just get into a car and drive, and they don't really appreciate the real true nature of what a car can do and the limits. Trying to push it to the limit and knowing when to go too far and when not to go too far. It's
Right.
when I've learned that doing track days myself, and it's a fun experience. If you damage it a little bit, well, you got to own up and say, yeah, that's my fault.
Yeah.
But going on a racetrack and just pushing the limits is just one way of learning your ability or lack of ability, I guess, sometimes. But
Yeah.
I love it. I love doing track days. It's just a lot of fun. It brings out the boy racer in me. I guess it brings out the girl racer in you as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's competitive, but so fun, and you get to meet people along the way as well. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
India Patten, here we go. It's the real reason why we got you onto the podcast. You wake up one morning and you check your phone like everyone does these days. They check your phone first thing in the morning, and you get a text and it says, check your bank balance. And you think, what are you talking about? You open it up anyway, and you find out your bank balance has skyrocketed to Elon Musk levels. You've become an instant billionaire. You're an Elon Musk millionaire or billionaire. It's amazing. You've just fallen about all over the place, and you think, what can I do with this money? So you then get an email from this mystery benefactor, and it says you can do whatever you like with the money. You can do whatever you want. You can buy so many houses or whatever. But then it says you can buy any car or bike or machine you want, but you're only allowed 3 in your dream garage. So with that in mind, what is the first car, bike or machine that you would have in your garage, India Patten?
Okay, so having been a BMW ambassador in the past, I definitely went straight to that brand.
Yes.
So I would have to say, and this also comes after being on the track with M3s, M4s, and M5s, I would have to say I would love an M4. And the reason for that is having had that opportunity of driving those 3 vehicles, I just found that the M4 was the most fun I had in those vehicles on the track. I think with reference to the speed and agility to that vehicle, and I think also the weight to power ratio of that vehicle was just perfection. Like, I just had so much fun in that car. And I think that's what I would have to have first in the garage.
That's really cool. Look, I don't mind the M4. The M4, which generation are we talking about though? Are we talking about the first generation, the F82, F83 series, or are we talking about the most recent one that has just come out?
So I would have to go with the original, the 2014 when it launched, because that is the one that I drove. And I know BMW has released the 50 jar M4, or it's about to, but that I would love to try and drive as well for the 50th anniversary. That would be amazing.
That would be really cool.
Yeah. So I'd have to have that in San Marino blue.
San Marino blue. Okay, that's nice. That's nice.
That's my favorite blue from BMW. And so that would be the first vehicle in my garage.
Actually,
my dream car.
you actually beat me to it because I got a friend of mine, well, a colleague of mine. He owns an M4 and it is in San Marino blue and it is beautiful. He's done he's done a few mods to it, just a few, like changing the chip in it and changing the mapping in it. So he's done some, it's really cool. And you look at it like it's a 3-litre twin turbo inline six. I mean, I love the fact that BMW sticks with an inline motor. Like it's just tradition for BMW to go the inline route. 6-speed manual gearbox or a 7-speed dual clutch transmission. Which one would you prefer? The dual clutch paddle shift or the 6-speed manual?
So the one that I drove was the dual clutch. So I think I would stick with that. Even though the manual is more of like a traditional, like probably, a traditional avenue to go down, but I think I'd probably go with the dual clutch. Yeah.
Why the dual clutch route?
I think just gear shifting was a lot easier. Like would be a lot easier, maybe for me. So I'd probably go with that.
Okay, I'll accept that. I'll accept that. That's really cool. The good thing is I've seen them in competition. So here in Australia, we've got the Australian Production Car Championship, or the Production Car Series as it's now known. And there's a brother team, like, so two brothers from a team in Queensland, the Sharon brothers, Grant and Ian Sharon, who've been racing production cars for years. They debuted an M4 in 2017. They raced at Bathurst for a few. They still race it now, but they actually successfully won the 6-hour production car race at Bathurst a couple of years ago, and they really tried hard to develop the car. No involvement from BMW. It was all privateer effort, and they had to deal with like all the trip computer, like all the computer issues, all the ModCon issues, you try and dial out of a production car because it's supposed to protect you. Like it has all these safety features, and it was hampering their development. So they had to try different avenues to get around it, and eventually they did, and it's now a well-developed sort of car, and they won Bathurst.
That's amazing.
It's really cool. It is a beautiful car. Like it's got so much power. It's crazy. Okay. Utterly crazy. Like I look at it, like it's got 425 brake horsepower or 317 kilowatts from twin turbos. Like that's just, and it's just got that BMW reliability. It just keeps going and going. It's built for that kind of racing. It's really cool.
Yeah. And that was the thing too, like what you touched on, like where they had to pare the car back because it was hampering, what they wanted to do on the track. Yeah. And that was the other thing, like with track days, there is like that safety component too, where, we were trying to like oversteer the vehicle, understeer the vehicle, that sort of thing. And you feel the car within milliseconds, you feel it self-correct.
Yeah.
So you are in like a safe condition, like you're not, out of control, that sort of thing. Yeah,
that's really cool. That I actually like that. I've had a few people mention like the M2, and one or two mention the M3. You're the first one to mention the M4, so that's a really good choice. I'm very very impressed.
Oh, good.
Okay, what is the second choice that you'd have?
Okay, so the second choice is actually, so this one's a bit fun because it's not a car. I went with a super yacht.
Okay.
I had the opportunity to go to an event on a super yacht in LA a couple of years ago, and this yacht was stunning. It's called the Invictus, and it's beautiful. It's basically a super yacht where it's so fabulously extravagant. It's an experience of like 6 decks, and it's indoor, outdoor, and the dining room itself is just so elegant, and it was just beautiful. It's really impressive. It has like a cinema with like the raised stadium seating even. It has an elevator to access all the levels of the decks. It's got a gym and a garage with toys. I think it's got like 4 jet skis and a sky lounge. Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
I'm looking at it right now. It is just insane. I was thinking like a racing super yacht. Now, one of our very first guests, Luke King, who races in Porsche Carrera Cup Australia, he mentioned a super yacht which is raced in the Sydney to Hobart and would like to do, I think it's has done the Sydney to Hobart, not done the America's
Mm-hmm.
Cup, but has done the Sydney to Hobart. And I was thinking of those lines. When you mentioned super yacht, I was thinking like a racing super yacht. This is next level. So next
Yeah.
level. So it was the asking price for it is $100 million US. That is just
Right.
insane. Like, so it's just unbelievable, and I can see that like some of the photos, it's just incredible. It's a
Yeah,
beautiful, beautiful boat.
Yeah.
You're very lucky to be on a boat such as that. I can understand why. If you had the budget to have to spend $100 million, you'd do it. No,
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's just-
No, it's beautiful.
that is beautiful.
Yeah. And, it was like built by Delta Marine as well. And so it's, it's a 66-meter runabout, like it's beautiful. It holds, I think, 20 guests and you've got 9 cabins and it's just beautiful.
Look, I'm not a boat person, but holy moly, is that beautiful or what? That is, we'll put a photo up on the website. That is just amazing. You've chosen well. Were you ever really, did you ever grow up being a boat person, or was it just, the opportunity to be a guest on that boat? Were you surprised at how beautiful that actually was when you stepped onto the craft?
Yeah, absolutely. I had no expectations. I'm not really into boats that much at all. We did have a speedboat growing up. We did a lot of water skiing and wakeboarding and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But no, super yachts. I think of Italy and France and
Monaco, of course. Yeah.
Monaco, yeah, absolutely. And so no, I didn't really, I didn't know what to expect, basically. And then when, we got a little tender out to the boat and got onto the boat, and you were just like, oh my gosh, this is a dream. It's so beautiful.
That is incredible. I'm jealous. I'm utterly jealous. That is really cool. All right. So we got a car and we got a boat.
Yeah.
What is the third machine that you'd have in your dream garage?
So we're going back to cars now.
Yeah.
And this one I would love the experience of driving this anytime. It would be amazing. So it's the Formula One designer, Gordon Murray.
I know of Gordon Murray, yes.
Yeah, and it would be his T50. I would love to try this supercar.
Okay, hang on. The T50, here we go.
T50, ultimate sports car.
The Gordon Murray Automotive T50. Now, I thought for a moment you were going to mention the McLaren F1, which he designed for McLaren back in 1993. Yes. We have had that in the dream garage in the past with a guest of mine. But the T50, it is inspired, I'm looking at it now, it is inspired by the McLaren F1.
It is, yeah.
But it's a completely different machine. So let me explain it. Actually, you explain it first. How did you come about it? What was the...
So, again, I think that track driving sort of background that I quite enjoy. He actually had another vehicle, the T33, which this one it has the same engine as the T50, but it's built on a new platform. But yeah, I think just basically Gordon Murray, he's obsessed with weight reduction and power to weight ratio and that sort of thing. So I just think it would be so fun to drive. I think it would be an amazing experience. And I think the fan on the back, I don't know if you've come across that yet, the fan on the back that he placed, to create that downforce pressure, I just think it would be, pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool. Let me give the details of the car. So it runs a 4-litre naturally aspirated V12 engine developed by Cosworth. It has the highest power to weight ratio among its class, which is against the Aston Martin Valkyrie and the Mercedes AMG 1. So it has 501 kilowatts per tonne. That's 672 brake horsepower per tonne. It's just amazing, and the engine's only 178 kilos, and it weighs
986 kilos. I mean, it'd be a dream.
That's beautiful, and of course, the fan that you were talking about, it's derived from his time when he designed the cars for Brabham in Formula One back in the 70s. So you may be aware of the Brabham BT46B, which had the fan on the back. It was trying to create the ground effect, and it was only lasted one race, and then it got banned. So I can understand why you've chosen that car. But Gordon Murray, a legendary car designer, world champion designer for Formula One with Brabham back in the day. I can see why it looks so beautiful. And you know what I like even more? The powertrain. So the transmission, it's old school. It's a 6-speed H Patten gearbox. I like that. Absolutely like that.
Good. I think it would just be so amazing. Like, it would be such a great experience of being able to get into that vehicle. I mean, like he says, like he feels that it's the ultimate car that he's designed, the T50. So I just think, it'd be great to get in that. Yeah,
that is incredible. I'm utterly impressed. Utterly impressed. And it just brings the spirit of what the McLaren F1 was from 30 years ago into the modern day. It's just, you've chosen well. I'm utterly impressed. So the BMW M4, obviously because of your love of BMWs, the Invictus Super Yacht, which I still think is just insane, for $100 million US, and then the Gordon Murray Automotive T50. I did not expect that, especially the last car. That I am utterly impressed with. Utterly impressed. You've chosen well.
Oh, thanks. I feel like the design of these vehicles, like the Gordon Murray, he's just such an architect of vehicles. He's just
Were you aware of Gordon's Formula One talents before?
It's sort of an area like I've had that background knowledge, but the T50, it was something that I looked into. Like when you said to me about choosing, 3 vehicles, and I thought, well, I know it's not released yet, but I mean, the info that I've read on it and everything, I think it's just going to be so beautiful. Yeah. And I love the central driving position as well.
Exactly.
Where it's very driver centric. So, you're going to have the passengers on either side. But I just think that would be so amazing to experience. Yeah.
And of course, the gear shift would have to be on your right. So, and you've driven both left-hand, right-hand drive. So one final question before we wrap up. Which side of the car do you prefer driving? Left-hand drive or right-hand drive?
Oh, man. They're so different. Every time I come home, my dad says, stay left, stay left. But probably right-hand drive. It's what I'm used to. That's how I learned. It's Australian. And I used to get that question a lot in the States. They'd be like, why do you guys drive on the wrong side of the road and the wrong side of the car? And I'm like, hey, it's not wrong. Like, right. But
exactly.
Yeah. But I'd have to say the right-hand side. Yeah.
It feels like it's okay. Like it's okay to drive on on the left-hand side and then drive on the right. But I think when you grow up, knowing what to drive, it's a very British thing, I guess. That we follow what the Brits do. It's natural. I have no problem with that. That's that's really cool. I love this. That is a great list. The M4, the Super Yacht Invictus, and the GMA T50. There's nothing more I can say. It's a great list. It's been an absolute pleasure to have a chat with you, India, and it's been long overdue. I know you and I know each other personally, and we talk quite a bit via social media. But it's just nice to actually talk to you about cars. And you've surprised me on how much you actually know about cars. You have impressed me a lot.
Oh, great. Oh, well, that's good. No, thanks, Connor. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, this has been a blast. It's been fun.
It's been a pleasure, and I hope we get to do it again soon, and hopefully you get to learn a little bit more. But in the meantime, thank you so much. It's been great to have a chat with you.
Thanks, Connor.
Now that is an eclectic dream garage. It came as no surprise to me that there was a BMW in there, and as a BMW man myself, I was rather happy with the choice that she made with the M4. But the Invictus Super Yacht just blew me away. I highly recommend that you go and Google it and just have a look at the craftsmanship of that yacht. Just utterly incredible. Oh, and the Gordon Murray Automotive T50. Implementing so many aspects of Murray's successful career as a car designer in Formula One, as well as the legendary McLaren F1, justifies the US $3.5 million price tag that this car carries, as well as the 5-star rating that Top Gear magazine gave it late last year. Only 100 of these cars will be made, so it's guaranteed to be a future motoring classic. India was such a great guest, and her love for cars was quite infectious. It's a side that I only scratched the surface through chatting on social media previously, so to get to chat about cars in person was a real joy. A huge thank you to India for being so generous with her time. You can follow India via her Instagram page at India Patten. That's India, Patten. Speaking of socials, we're on all the channels and our handle is The Motor Dream, which is also the hashtag. Head to the Motor Dream podcast website at themotordream.com.au, and that is where you can find all previous episodes as well as show information and links to our socials. And make sure you like and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast and leave some feedback, be it a quirky car question or a guest suggestion. And don't forget to spread the word about the Motor Dream podcast. Well, that's it for this episode, and thank you as always for listening. Until next time, I'm Connor McNally, and remember, please drive safely out on the roads. See you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Motor Dream podcast. This series is proudly produced by Beast Productions.